Started with a PV amp that I bought at a pawn shop. As you see, I've taken all the guts out of it. Wanted mainly the amp itself, and I thought I actually had a 6-inch speaker that was better quality, but I didn't. So I ended up using the speaker as well. This board that you see here is actually hickory, and I tore apart a pallet and I'm using that wood for the face. I'm jointing 2 edges because I need to glue 2 panels together to make a big enough panel for the speaker. And I did this twice, and I went ahead and glued up 2 panels just in case I made a mistake. This Paduke I've had sitting in the garage for a little while, and I had other plans to do something with this, and I never did do that. So I'm going to use this Paduke to build the main case of the speaker. I always have problems setting up 45 degrees on my table saw. It never seems to always fit perfect. By doing it this way, setting up a stop block on the far left side of the blade, and then cutting 1 piece to the size, and then making sure they fit, and then just going ahead and cutting the rest of it. I'm going to glue up the box using the Bessie clamp for the corners, and then I also use these 45 degree gauges that I got from Rockler just to make sure it's all square, because it does need to be pretty square in order for it all to fit right. This is that panel that I was gluing up earlier. I'm taking little nibbles off of this piece to fit it inside this box, because I wanted a really tight fit, and I wanted to make sure I didn't overcut it. And so I go back and forth to the saw several times to make sure it fits. You can see it's just a pinch tight right here, and I'm trying it in all different directions just to make sure the box is square for one, and maybe it might fit one direction and not the other. So I'm just taking, these are about half saw blade cuts, and making sure they fit each time. And it looks like I just about got it. Maybe one more pass. Just about. See, I tried it in all different directions, make sure I got the right direction, and make sure I got a nice clean fit. After I made sure that panel fit, I realized that I needed to cut about 2 inches off one side for the amplifier itself. So I guess I didn't need it that tight. But I did follow the same process to make sure it fit with the amp in there as well. And I did end up getting a really clean joint. Using the x-carve to make a circle. This is about a 5.5 inch circle, I think. And I'm just using the x-carve to cut that circle out. And I'm only going about halfway with the x-carve. Here in a second, you'll see me use the scroll saw to finish the pattern out. And then I'll also finish sanding the rest of it over on the rigid sander. And if you haven't seen the wrench video right there that I'm using, you got to watch that if you own one of these sanders, because that is a really nice wrench. All this is a 3/4 inch hole that I put on both sides for a little bit of ventilation for the speaker. The piece I'm working with now is just a drill template. These holes line up with the mounting holes for the amplifier. So I made a small template and drilled out some holes, countersinked a 3/8 Forstner, and then mounting the amp that way. And my original plan was putting plugs in there to hide the screws, but you'll see what I do with that in a little bit. Now I'm just test fitting this again. I've test fitted this probably 30-40 times probably, and you can see what it's beginning to come out to be. This little stick is for the back plate. I just needed a little extra meat for the backing plate so I can put some screws in. And I'm using the original feet that came off the original amplifier. Now this is what I'm going to use those holes for at the top. I put the 3/8 inch dowel plug indicators in and marked my holes. Drilled out with a 3/8 Forstner bit so I could fit some dowels. And this plate is actually what's going to hold the iPad here in a little bit. And I also didn't want these these plugs glued in case if I ever have to get that amplifier out. I can pop this plate off and I can take the amplifier out. Now here's the amplifier out of the case, and what I'm doing here is soldering in a cutoff piece of an extension cord. And I'm soldering this in right there so I can have a cord that plugs into my iPad. So I bought a cheap extension cord, cut off the female end and spliced it in with the power cord, and I put in a iPad charger on the inside of the case. That way it's always there with the iPad. And I just ran it through the same holes that the speaker wires are running through. Here's that backing plate that I was talking about earlier. Just 4 simple screws. It's actually the original backing plate that came off the original amp. And that's the iPad cord. Now here's the iPad holder. I just have to basically assemble a few pieces of wood so I can hold the iPad, and then I trim it off with these 45 degree trim pieces. I didn't like the old knobs, so at this point I've already made 3 knobs and I needed another knob. And I'm just using the scrap piece of Paduke that I had and made 4 of these very simple knobs. I think the knobs give it a little bit more uniqueness to the project. Nothing fancy here, just a knob with a hole. And it's a press fit on the amplifier. The 1/4 inch hole that I drilled into the knob before fit onto this temporary mounting plate. And there's the knob going on right now. At this point I only had 3 of the knobs. I was working on the 4th one while this was cutting. This is the adjustment piece for the iPad itself so it can tilt in different directions. This worked out really well. This is I drew this up in SketchUp and I imported it into easel and just mounted it to the side, and it worked out real well. The finish I used on the entire project was Danish oil golden oak. I wanted the golden oak on the hickory because it brought out the brownness, and it also allowed the grain to show through as well. And I also didn't want to spend time with the polyurethane or anything like that. So this is what I chose, and it turned out really well. Now this PV nameplate came on the amplifier itself. I figured I'd reuse it somewhere, and this was one of the best places I could put it. My original plan was to put it back on the front, but I like it better up here. You can also see in this picture those 4 knobs at a close-up. They turned out pretty well. Now to put all this together, I got an iPad. In my case, it's an iPad mini. There's the iPad charging port. A simple 1/8 inch, I think it's 1/8 inch headphone jack cord. And I had to bump up the, I had to get an adapter to bump up to 1/4 inch for the amplifier. Now the microphone input and the microphone itself. And let's rock. All right, the project's done. It turned out really well. I am very pleased with this project. It's probably one of my favorite projects to date. I've always wanted to build a guitar amp, but I don't play the guitar, I don't play any instruments, and I certainly don't do karaoke unless I have a few drinks in me. But I've always wanted to do that, and that's kind of the advantage of having your own YouTube channel, so you can make whatever the hell you want. And I made one. I bought an old guitar amp from a pawn shop. I paid $30 for it, and a lot of the wood that I already had was, well, the light collar wood, it's hickory. It was actually a pallet. And the Padauk is the only money that I actually put into the wood itself. The Padauk, it was about $35 for that stick of Padauk that I used. Little more money than I wanted to put into that, but I'm glad I used the Padauk against that hickory because I think it really looks good. The iPad is just my iPad mini that I use on a day-to-day basis. An old iPad cord, and that is wired right up into the power cord on the inside of the amp. So this cord will stay with the unit itself. The microphone was given to me by my brother. It's just a cheap microphone, a Radio Shack microphone, just probably $5, probably be my guess. And then I replaced the old knobs with turn Padauk knobs. Everything else is come with the machine itself. The amp is a PV brand. I believe that is how you pronounce that. I hope I pronounced that right. But it really turned out cool, and even though I say I won't ever use it, I probably will. The grain pattern on this hickory really is cool. Kind of wish I shown off more of it, quite honestly. But yeah, that turned out really, really well. I'm very pleased with this project. If this is your first time watching MFWoodShop, please hit the subscribe button. That way you don't miss out on any of my content that I put out. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up. And if you don't mind, leave me a comment with things that you liked about the project or things that you didn't like about the project. Or if you have any questions about the project, please leave them in the comment below, and I'll get back to you on that. As you can see, the project turned out pretty well, and it sounds okay. I think the microphone could be a little bit better, but you know, it was free. So until next time, I'll see you later.
Hey, are you doctors in that? Yeah. Yeah.